Good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Bishop Vanessa M. Brown. I am your host and moderator for this evening. We are so excited to have you here with us on tonight. Those of you that are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn, we say welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, those of you that are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, we say welcome. We want to give you the opportunity to share. So please do us a favor and make sure that you share this particular broadcast tonight. I promise that it's going to be quite wonderful. We have a very special guest here with us. I want to make sure that you all are sharing this particular conversation so that we can bring on our guests for this evening. We know that there are people that are already in the crowd and online waiting. We have our faithful people that are still here with us each and every Wednesday. And so we are grateful for that and grateful for your presence on tonight. I'm going to bring Bishop Flunder in. She is our co-host tonight. She's a presiding bishop from the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries and the senior pastor of City of Refuge United Church of Christ. Bishop Flunder, will you come and greet our audience tonight?
Well, it's just wonderful to be in conversation, continuing in conversation, hearing from prophets all over the United States and world concerned with what is problematic about how religion and its way of using the gospel as a weapon has been traumatizing to women, to people of color, to people of the LGBTQI community. And I have to tell you, we have had some incredible scholars and some incredible writers, some incredible life livers, I call them, people who have been through enough, who have come to the conclusion that this stuff stops with me.
Yeah.
And we have a truth-telling author with us this evening. So anyway, put your comfortable stuff on, get you a cup of tea or whatever it is you need a cup of. And let's get prepared to talk about what should be and shouldn't be the crooked gospel Black women's body politics that are going on in our time. What do we really need to do to put a hand on this stuff? God bless you. I'm glad that you're with us.
Thank you so much, Bishop. And on that note, I want to bring to you our author, professor, PhD, Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles. She is the assistant professor of ethics, theology, and culture, and the director of the Katy Geneva Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership at Union Presbyterian Seminary. She is also the author of Up Against a Crooked Gospel, Black Women's Bodies and the Politics of Redemption. Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles, we're so happy to have you with us on tonight, and we ask that you greet our audience tonight.
I must just begin with so much gratitude and thanks to both of you for spending this time to chat about this book, but also more importantly for this wonderful platform that you've created and the kind of folks that you engage week after week. More than that, your commitment to truth telling, justice seeking, wisdom bearing, all of that. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be in the virtual house tonight.
Hey, we are glad to have you. And really, I'm going to shout out before we start the conversation. Faithful people, they're on pretty much every week. Albert Reed from Colleen, Texas. Sean Jenkins from North Carolina. Lavinia Bean from Cape May, New Jersey. All on Facebook. Maria Harris from Denver, Colorado on YouTube. Darlene Connell, I see you. Queens, New York is in the house. Chuck Hunt, other people are coming in. Monroe, Louisiana is here. And we want to just shout you all out. Make sure you all are sharing and so that we can get this conversation going. But Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles, when I saw this book and I started reading it, I started really getting joy in my soul because you start off with your grandmother. I'm going to call her Mother Foster. And she's in the homeland of the souls. But I believe that it is her light that's shining down through you that helped you write this book. So tell me about your grandmother?
Absolutely. I think you're right there where I start the text. And that is with my grandmother's story. My grandmother was a Black woman. She was a domestic who began working in the houses of white folk down south in Memphis, Tennessee. She was a single mother. She got pregnant at a young age with my mom. And like most migrants, she traveled from Tennessee to Chicago and journeyed to Chicago in hopes for a better life, for a better opportunity. And she was met with more despair just in an urban context. And she had to shift her work not from domestic service to white folk, but to domestic service as a hotel housekeeper for Hyatt hotels in downtown Chicago. She lived on the south side of Chicago, Inglewood, and barely made ends meet in order to support her family, her two kids, and the struggles of life weighed her down. The last quarter of her life, 25 years, the last quarter, she lived until she was 71. But I watch over the 25 early years of my life and the last 25 years of her life that her body began to bend over. And a peculiar happening happened when she was going to the hospital. She thought it was a routine visit. She had some discomfort and pain. It ended up being an extended stay. And little did we know that would be our last time before we were able to see her. In the hospital room, when they declared and pronounced that she had transitioned to the other side, I noticed a peculiar happening in her body. That because she had been bent, literally slumped over for a significant part of her life, she could not lay her body flat. And as soon as they pronounced that she had transitioned, I saw immediately that her body laid straight. And for me, ever since that moment, I've been grappling with the question, how might Black women live into liberation, transformation in life and not in death? And that's exactly where the book starts. And that's exactly where the intersection of my grandmother's story and certainly this larger conversation on Black women's experiences emerges.
Thank you for that. And we're going to speak her name in this atmosphere, in this virtual space. Sweetie Gertrude Foster.
Yes.
We speak your name in this atmosphere. We thank God for your granddaughter and all that you are bringing into her life at this time. And so before I keep going, I see Melody Hall here. Q, Quincy James Ronhart is in the house with us. Welcome, Quincy. Sharon Gill is here. Marilyn is in the house. Siegfried Benton is here. Pastor, welcome to you. Temple Hills, Maryland. Jerome Abbott from Dallas. Laverne McInnes is here. Francis Hartage is here. Annette Jones is here. Chicago is in the house. Laverne McInnes, again, we're so glad to see each and every one of you here on tonight. And also we want to speak the name of Mother Ruth Langston. She is the mother of our presiding bishop, Bishop Flunder, who today is the anniversary of her transition. And so we speak your name, Mother Ruth, prayer warrior, preacher, the backbone of the ministry, someone that stood in the background but should have been in the front, but made way and did what she needed to do for her family. And so we speak her name into this atmosphere. Bishop Flunder, if you want to say something else about Mother before we go on, I want to give you that opportunity.
My daughter asked me earlier today, how did I feel? Knowing that this was the anniversary of Mama's transition. And I told her, I said, I feel her presence in some ways, finally, similarly than how I felt it when she was living. She seems to be very present. And I'm sure that you know something about that also, Dr. Melanie. Sometimes when we see ourselves grow into who we are supposed to be, we begin to see them in tangible ways. So we speak her name. We speak your name, Mama. Mother Ruth Ella Langston Hamilton, the mother of a generation of powerful people. God bless.
God bless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melanie. I want to get right into it. Even as people are still coming in the room, you speak about the bent over woman as recorded in Luke. Tell us a little bit more about how that story is informing your book at this time.
Yeah, in many ways, I think my grandmother's story parallels with the narrative of the bent woman. The text in Luke 13:10-17 says she was bent over and she couldn't get up, right? This double bendedness, this doubly bent. And it's a recognition also that there are, in the Greek, it gives us an inkling that there are pressures or forces that are being foisted upon her that has ultimately bent her over, that has caused some kind of physical condition. Part of my interest in this text was to parallel my grandmother's experience with this text, right? Because I think that is one of the hallmarks, not only of African-American biblical exegesis, but what Black women have been doing since we've been reading the Bible is finding stories that fit and in many ways that parallel our own lives and making meaning out of them. But also because I recognize that text, the woman thou art loose text, has often been scripted in a way that has either made women, Black women in particular, the problem, or has pathologized the text in a way to say that this bending is a kind of defect of our character or a sense of virtue or that has that we've been lacking in such, or some moral virtue that we might see ourselves as having a deficiency. And I want to speak against that very concept that says, no, this is not the condition by which this woman has caused. That as we read that text much more fully, and particularly the exchange that Jesus has with the synagogue leader, pointing out ways in which, wait a minute, this woman has been coming to this synagogue for some time now, and no one else has been concerned about her condition. That means that y'all have been a part of or arbiters, right, in her trouble. And so I think in many ways, the text is a kind of calling out of the Black church and or contempt, theologies of contempt that have often rendered Black women to be the problem or suggest that we have some type of pathology that scripts us as bearing burdens or problems that are of our own making. And I think it's quite the opposite. In fact, the social and theological conditions that we're often up against are things that we need to dismantle and point really towards.
Thank you for that, Bishop Flunder.
I hear that, and I simultaneously hear often the despair that women in the church that raised me, let's put it that way, the despair that they had was often because it seems that the doors were closed. And there was always someone saying, you can't come through that door because you're too fragile, or you don't have a big enough brain, or you're designed by God not to be over anything, that you have to be sheltered and covered and held back because there's an innate God-given weakness in you. And I don't think that most of the women that I knew, to your point, believed that. but they were stuck in a society that in some ways held them prisoner to it, sometimes because they could not find jobs or because they had to see to the care and health of their children. And so there was a pretense, it's kind of like what I'd see at some of the great big meetings that I've been to, big church meetings. And the women defer, you know what I'm saying? And they're so skilled at deferring and knowing how to get power from suggesting that you are in league with power, or you believe that certain, particularly men, can be powerful, and the being demure is not really who they are. But there's a tool, sometimes to get things. So I would really love to know more in the book. What are women really prepared to move? Are we prepared to move beyond something that we have permitted for a period of time? Are we prepared to move beyond that, knowing that it may have some backlash? I'd love to know what it is that you have experienced and perhaps what you wrote about and write about. And what would you say to women who are playing the role in some ways for benefits? That's not a good word. Yeah, it's a good word. Things that they think are benefits, given some of the circumstances that surround us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I think you're drawing on this subversive politics. I think that Black women know well. And perhaps why, even though we haven't always gotten the vote to do the kinds of things that we desire to do on the kind of large American stage, the reason why we can do politics well is because we know how to navigate the Black church. And that subversive positioning of ourselves often either in moments and in cases of deference. And I'll give you an example. Nanny Helen Burroughs, that great woman who many of us remember or know of as the founder of Women's Days. And I would tell you, if Nanny Helen Burroughs seen the way some of these Women's Days are today, she would not be thinking that this is what it is, because it really was oriented towards thinking about ways in which we could educate women and ways that we could extend our service, both as a service or as mission work in terms of across our domestic context, but also abroad.
Yes.
But in her speeches, I mean, she would model this kind of subversive politics when she would tell the women, she would tell the men, don't hinder us from helping, right? And she would tell the women, don't have your eye on the pulpit because it's only fools who are in the pulpit. I mean, there was already this sense that even though there are perhaps Black male leaders who have purported themselves in ways that are over us, we understand that we're actually the majority, that we are sustaining not only the tradition, but the actual building and church itself, right? And if we don't do the work of transforming each other, right, then we won't be a part of the raising of the entire race. In many ways, as a race woman, she was articulating that. And I think, we kind of, as contemporary thinkers and folks who look back at some of our foremothers, we're somewhat critical of their politics of respectability, right? And I understand that. But on many ways, it was some of the only ways by which they were able to respond to society that was telling us and continuing to not only be hostile to us by white surveillance, but continually kind of reframing ways by which we are imagined as morally right, inferior. And these were responses, right, and ways of pushing back. No, you need to look a certain way. You got to dress a certain way. You got to act a certain way. You've got to get educated. You have to have certain opportunities, right? The problem with that, right, it was not necessarily their appeal to holy dress, right, or their appeal to rationality and intelligence. The problem was that when Black women began to police each other by ways we live up to or do not,
Come on, Dr. Melanie.
Codes, right? And so this policing culture because you don't have the hem real under, real long, or because your skirt doesn't look like this, or because you don't, fit these norms. And we began to suggest that certain people fit and other people do not. That is when we participate in this surveillance culture, surveilling culture. And ultimately this moves from not subversion, but right tactics and strategies of confinement that we participate in, right?
That's good.
We participated, and then we visited upon other people, right?
Yeah.
I want to move us in and around this book into some of the chapters. You talk about the body proper in Black religious thought, the Black woman's body politics, womanist methods for doing body ethics, theorizing the Black body and Black religious thought, and then a bent body politic, which I think we just talked about a little bit. I want you to say more about the body proper.
Yeah, part of what I'm engaging is in Christian theology. There is this sense, and throughout Western philosophy, but more so in Christian theology, that the body is a central locus, right? We use the body. Paul talks about the body of Christ and the coming together. We use the body as a kind of spiritual disciplines or practices, fasting. These are practices where we use the body through prayer, through meditation. And then there's this kind of undercurrent by which the body has also been scripted as a problem, right? And ways that Christian theology, but also Western philosophy has scripted us to believe notions of the body or to associate things that we demonize in society, right, with the body, right? So in this context, right, we'll say Europe over Africa. Europe, rationality, that's mine, body, Africa, right? We'll kind of suggest that, right, all things Black are reduced to the body. This is man over woman, right? This is context that suggests straight over LGBTQIA, right? This is ways that we suggest that it's a bodily problem or this is unnatural. So these are ways that we demonize at the same time that we want to hold the body as a part of, we want a bodily resurrection, right? We want the body, right? And we see the advantages of the body in terms of theologically that we see throughout scripture. But at the same time, we're scripting a double-edged narrative that is also demonizing the body at the same point as which we're raising it up. And so part of what I'm doing in that first chapter is trying to mine, if you will, Black religious scholars like M. Sean Copeland, Kelly Brown Douglas. Kelly Brown Douglas, say her name, Kelly Brown Douglas, Ebony Marshall Turman, Anthony Penn, who are all giving us perspectives in Black religious thought that help us to think more critically and also more constructively about valuing the body and reclaiming the body, especially in Black religious thought. And that's what I'm trying to do.
That's interesting that you ran off those names because they've been guests on Beyond the Gatekeepers, Kelly Brown Douglas, Anthony Penn. I need to get in touch with Ebony Marshall Turman, but yes, all of those people, yes. And I want Bishop Flunder to chime in on this piece of it because it brings up Mother Langston. Chapter number 2 or part 2, Near the Cross, Womanist Christology Between Suffering and Salvation. And you go into May the Work I've Done Speak for Me. You go into Many Women Were There, Sisterhood of Faith, Disciples at the Cross. You go into womanist Christology, a cross-examination, and then the last thing, no more suffering, the empty cross. I want to start with that.
Mm-hmm.
No more suffering and the empty cross. And the reason why I lifted up Mother Ruth Langston's name is because I believe her and Bishop Flunder were having a conversation one day about suffering. Bishop Flunder could tell it better than I can. Go ahead, Bishop.
Yeah. So my mother was a Trinitarian Pentecostal Church of God in Christ woman all of her life, born in the womb of the Church of God in Christ. And one of the things that she talked about all the time is a good preacher, a good teacher. And she used to say, you know, we have got to learn how to suffer. She said, what is wrong with most of the people? She said, people do not want to suffer, but we've got to learn how to suffer. And she used to say it all the time because the folks that raised her said it all the time, and particularly among the women. You all have to learn how to suffer. You got to go through something to be something. You got to learn how to suffer. And there was one day, and she was telling me about the suffering, which of course was just about everything you wanted to do. you couldn't do it, and you had to learn how to suffer. And that's why you weren't being able to do it, whatever it was. And I said to Mama, I said, Mama, why would anybody want to suffer? What's the value of suffering? Why would people want to suffer? There's something psychotic about that. Why should we? And she stopped for a minute. It was a nice long minute. And she said to me, she said, you know what, Yvette? That's the truth. I said, yeah, it's the truth. I don't want to suffer. Jesus didn't want to suffer. You say, well, he wanted this. No, he didn't. He didn't choose it. It chose him. My question is, what is the salvific value of wanting to suffer? Somehow, how does it give you power? And my mother said, I think we had this thing wrong. It wasn't long after that my mother, my Kojic mother, who had all of my life worn at least a skirt and a top, most of the time a dress, even if she was going to Walmart or CVS, she still had a dress on. My mother came to my front door not long after that with some tennis shoes, with jingle bobs on the tennis shoes, some pants and a shirt and a little cap broken down on the side of her head. She said, well, she said, I'm through suffering. to which I said, are you serious? I couldn't believe this woman at my door. All this time, she just wanted to wear some pants. Do you understand what I'm saying? And be able to be her full and entire self, and not think that she had to deny herself so many things that didn't even make sense. And the way she denied herself was to see it as her suffering having salvific value. That was a real breakthrough for a very powerful woman, I must say. My mother, it's the truth. Bishop Vanessa is absolutely correct.
Dr. Melanie, go ahead.
Yeah, my advisor, whom I love dearly, Dr. Joanne Marie Terrell, she wrote this powerful book, Power in the Blood, The Cross and the African American Experience. And I remember when I was writing this chapter, she made it very clear. She says, Jesus died so we don't have to. That Jesus has done the work of suffering to make it possible for us to have life abundantly. And part of that empty cross is a real recognition that we have to hold the story of the cross in conversation with the resurrection, that Jesus doesn't stay on the cross, right? But what we have is an empty cross, which is a reminder that Jesus did suffer right? But there was even something after suffering that brought forth our
Yes.
salvation.
Yes.
And that is the hope, right? That's the hope. That song that outlines, may the work I've done speak for you. And Francis Crosby's Near the Cross, right? At the cross, these stories of all throughout the Gospels, we see that many women were there. Not only were they there in terms of announcing, right, that Jesus was risen, but they were there at Jesus' most critical moments, standing near the cross. Right at a time when we don't know just how many, because either they were scared, they had denied Jesus, they had betrayed Jesus, they were scattered, that those kind of chosen male disciples, we don't know how many, maybe one, the beloved, was there for sure. We don't know, but we know in every gospel that there were women there. Watching Jesus. And these were the women who had watched Jesus from birth, right? And seen his progression, seen his ministry, been healed by Jesus, right? Been delivered by Jesus, been set free by Jesus. And here they are still in Jesus's most painful moments as faithful disciples standing near the cross. And that to me was a reminder of how I narrate that particular part, is a reminder of why these cross insignias were inscribed around my grandmother's casket. And what does it mean for a Black woman to be perpetually near the cross, right? Is again, I think, this sense that Jesus suffers with us, right? That Jesus understands and knows all about our troubles, but Jesus doesn't leave us at the cross. Jesus provides for us the salvation to remind us that you don't have to be on the cross because I've already done that.
This is a pause for the cause. Everyone that is just joining us, we're here with Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles. She has a wonderful book. You need to get it, Up Against a Crooked Gospel, Black Women's Bodies and the Politics of Redemption. And you all know that we always do a free book giveaway. If you type the hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, all one word, you will be in the run-in to win a book for tonight. But we want to encourage you to purchase the book. Another Black woman has written a book, and a young Black woman. We want you to get in behind her. How can you do that? You can do that by purchasing the book. And there are ways that you can purchase the book that'll go down into your comment section. It probably is already there already. Pastor Sue has already put it there. And you can get that book, I know, through Orbis, through Amazon, several different ways. She has her own website and her own link tree, as a matter of fact. And you can go to her link tree. I believe that that's there as well. And make sure that you do something. You want to give a gift to someone. You want to give a gift to some saintly mother. Come on. You want to give a gift to, maybe the missionary board of the church, something that you want to do. This is the gift that you want to give. I promise you that it's going to liberate them, and it's going to bless you for doing it. Thank you all so much. Part 3 or part 1, our saviors ourselves, the burden to save democracy. I think about that section, and of course I think about what we just went through as a nation, right? I think about that a lot. You touch on, nevertheless she persisted. Remembering Coretta Scott King and the bloody march to Black suffrage in Alabama. You touch on bounder with all of humanity to fight for citizenship and political power. And then, of course, I love Melissa Harris Perry. And you talk a little bit about one of her writings, I Too Am America, Melissa Harris Perry's Sister Citizen, The Crooked Room and the Problem. So I want you to talk about that. Yeah. Because let's start with nevertheless she persisted.
Yeah, so this salvation history story is not just a theological one; it's also a political one, right? And I remember December 2017 when all of us woke up, when Alabama, when Roy Moore and I believe Doug Jones, when they were both candidates for the seats in Alabama, and it was the 98% of Black women who ensured that the Democrats would hold that particular seat at that time. And we woke up that next morning with all of these hashtags, Black women saved America, right? And part of that is a recognition that Black women been saving America. In fact, we've been saving America from itself, right? And that is a story that is often still undertold, particularly because even as we look just as recent, perhaps mid 20th century, and we think about civil rights history, herstory, the fact that many of us only know Black charismatic male leaders when Black women were the architects of that Montgomery bus boycott and many of the pieces. And then there was no seat for them in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And in the SCLC, when there was a seat for them, it was only as an advisory role when Ella Baker said, to hell with this, right? And she gathered with some of the students in order to create SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So in this sense, right, Black women have been saving America and calling America to be better than it has been, or at least live up to the ideals it proclaims, right? So I'm tracing that political history through the civil rights. I start back with this kind of challenges that Black women wear as early as the top of the 20th century, where Black women are on these tours with white women for suffrage, and white women don't repay the favor in terms of supporting Black women on issues of abolition or against anti-lynching, right? And then continuing that history into the civil rights. And then when we look in our own contemporary era, we know what just happened with Kamala, right? But just a few years ago, when I think about Stacey Abrams and the way that folks utilize, particularly the Democratic Party, utilize her strategy in terms of not soliciting new registered voters that are swing voters, but actually going after what we call the new, or what she calls the new American majority, which are people of color, or people who are young, Gen Zs and millennials, or people who have never voted in their lives, right? And the Democratic Party uses Stacey Abrams' strategy, and it does not benefit her. It only ensures, right, that we get two new senators, and she ultimately labors with no reward, right? So this burden to save democracy, we see that in political history, but we also see that in our kind of fantastic history as it relates to when we look in popular culture, right? And this notion that, you know, the Olivia Popes of the world, right, are fixing and saving America and wearing the white hat, right? And we talk about, well, what are the benefits that Olivia gets? Because what we see, her saving everyone else, but her life is falling apart, right?
Absolutely.
So what are we getting? Often little, and we're doing the work. So this salvation history, again, is something that we've been living for a long time, and it's evident in the fabric, the moral fabric of this nation.
Bishop, you want to?
Oh God, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, I'm going back doing vignettes in my own life. So I really do understand precisely what you're saying, Dr. Melanie. It also brings me to that moment when Jesus was at Mary and Martha and Lazarus' house. And Mary and Martha had a difference of opinion about what Mary was supposed to be doing, because her place in her elder sister's mind was that she should be in the kitchen preparing food while the brethren were lounging. Usually that's the way they sat and talked or laid and talked in the front room talking about the things that were happening in the time that they were and listening to Jesus. And she chatted her sister and basically said, come out of the man space. That was the essence of it. If you're going to listen quietly in the kitchen door, but don't think that you can go into the room. And I love the way that the story is told. I want to believe that it is literal because I love that Jesus, okay? Basically, she has chosen the better part. Was something else that we bounce over rather quickly. But the fact that he said that to her in that time, I am so sure dropped the jaws of just around everyone who was in the space. What in the world do you mean she chose the better? Bishop Vanessa, there were no reclining chairs.
Right.
So the probability is that people were laid out sort of or sitting down on a floor that was likely even a dirt floor. Let's put it that way. Imagine that she was in the company of men during that time and the only woman there, and she chose the better place. Something did happen and shift women out of the wherewithal to feel comfortable and confident in the place of duality and learning and growing and expanding simply because they had to be diminished in some way to truly be women. But I go a little further. And my little further says, I'm sure yours does too. It's kind of like, why don't y'all go cook sometime? I just understand. Guys can cook. I know a lot of guys that can really cook. We got to do something about these commanded requirements, duties, and responsibilities. If we could break that particular glass ceiling and glass walls, I believe that people can be received for what they are capable of, not what it is that someone would use to either make them greater or lesser. If they could just be who they are, what a wonderful blessing that would be. But Jesus read, I know, let me tell you, Martha, I bet you Martha was mad for like 2 weeks. You were just pissed off, and don't be talking to me about that. Jesus must have had gas or something. I don't know why he would do something like that. But I say that because I hear your heart. I think that the question that I have, Bishop Vanessa, is how many of us are going to take the courage to break these glass ceilings and glass walls?
Yeah, that's a pushback against patriarchy.
And patriarchy got to buy into it too.
Yes.
Or it's a forever struggle. It's the same thing when we talk about being same gender loving people, or being women leaders in what used to be male jobs or things like that. If we can remove that, if we can get rid of those things, then perhaps from a child up, people can be their best and highest selves just simply because they are their best and highest selves, period. Anyway, that's a Flunder. I'm sticking with it. God bless you.
Dr. Melanie, I'm going to go on because I want to encourage people. Why I'm doing this way is because I want to encourage people to get the book. There's so many jewels and nuggets in this book, so many things to be taught, so many things to be learned from this book. And so I just want to let you know that I'm grateful. You go into part 2 of Our Saviors and Ourselves, Redeeming the Soul of the Black Church. Right there, that's a mouthful, right? Because many people don't believe it, but the Black church is in trouble. And so you talk about lifting the veil, Black women, and the soul of Black liberation. You go into, again, I too am the Black church, Black women, a crooked gospel, and the theopolitics of redemption. You talk again about gonna lay down my burdens, the promise of womanist theologies of salvation. And then last but certainly not least, and we are not yet saved. Let's talk about that. And we are not yet saved.
Yeah. So part of what you'll see is this duality, or this two-ness, this double-edgedness, is a kind of foil for the entire book. When I talk about it in society, I want to also show you how theology, or how the church has either authorized or ordained it or sustained, right? These very practices. And somehow the church, the Black church, got in the business of saving Black women. And has scripted itself. And in many ways, we see this not only through sermons, through preaching, through teaching, through the way in which we've already talked about church doctrine, but the ways in which we are confining and restricting women's roles without recognition of ways Black women have literally built this church on their backs, if you will, with their time, talent, treasure, have given so much of themselves, and then to deny them from being in the pulpit, right? And then to deny them from leadership in ways that actually progress the institution forward, and then to deny them and their children from opportunities to sit on certain pews because they don't make certain amounts or money, or to have certain how did we get here, right? And what are the possibilities for us to think very differently about this? And one of the important critiques I think I want to make is this is not just a problem of Black evangelical churches that are conservative, but this is also prophetic Black churches that have raised up Black women as only chosen tokens, right? That have not actually thought about ways in which they might think about Black women's contributions and to honor those in real sustained ways. If we look at even some of our prophetic organizations who have maintained leadership with Black charismatic male leaders, that's a nod to us. You mean to tell me no Black woman has ever been fit to lead this organization, right?
Come on.
These are nods that both priestly and prophetic traditions of the Black church are both called to the carpet in terms of reckoning with the real deep inherent sexism that is at work within our Black church context. And so Black women, we are not only called to redeem the soul of the Black church, but I really do believe in the Black church. I really do believe in the promise of the Black church as a resistance movement. But I need it to be a church that is ready to receive and embrace all of us. Not some of us, not the ones we want and the ones we don't, but all of us, because that really, to me, is a true vision of Black liberation.
That's good. And I guess I can want to just say that I want a church that does the same. But the problem is that even some of the women who they accept, they don't make room for other women because they got in the door. So what are we going to do about even Black women that are complicit so that they can get ahead, that are part of the,
the haves and the have-nots. There is, how can you be a have if there's no have-nots? That's the part that we haven't figured out. We essentially, high exists because of low. High is not high by itself. What is high? If it's not measured against something that is low, and I think that the point that does exist in academia right now, Bishop Vanessa, you've hit the nail on the head, because so many of my sisters and friends and colleagues who are academic, essentially among that group, there are those who kind of forget the road. That I think you really understand what I'm saying, because of some of the experiences that we have had, let's put it that way, that the sisters back at home have not had. how do we then make them feel that they are also equally powerful without having, and all the while, Bishop Vanessa, the institutions are becoming less and less reaching out and seeking for big money to do the things that they once did when they were all male. And the denominations were putting money in so that they could seat male pastors and their little wives that played the piano, you know what I'm saying, to come to a parish. That time is also leaving. So I think that you're asking, Bishop Vanessa, and what Dr. Melanie is making so clear, how can we be certain that we not become what it is that used to treat us badly? How do we do that in a real tangible way? Did I make sense?
Yeah.
Effort to make sense. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when there has been a breach, part of repairing that breach is first a reckoning, right, with the fact that this is where we are. And this is, I hope, an offering towards that historical framing that gives us some ways of thinking about this deeply in the book. But it's also repentance, right? That's necessary. And this means that those who have to recognize that privilege and give up some of that privilege so that we all can have, right? It's a similar concept, and I teach my students in ethics. We all could really have water. It's enough to go around for everyone, but it requires that some of us who got more give up some of ours so that somebody else can get some too.
Yes,
we really all could have. And once we understand and really process ways in which we've navigated our own privilege and commit to repenting and giving up, then we make it possible for there to be a much more, I think, shared and loving possibility for justice to be distributed and power to be shared among us all.
The saints call you a communist now.
Yeah, come on.
Now that's I'm okay, but I believe
you're a communist now. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I believe in the economic possibilities for there to be a radical redistribution. I'm not suggesting that will solve all of our problems, but I am suggesting that gets us closer to the opportunity to not hoard over, to not hold, right? Yes. To not, because hoarding over is literally lording over, right? That we don't become those who hold and never. That's not the gospel I know. The gospel I know says give, right?
Yes, the Bishop Sonia Williams makes a great point. She said one thing: some Black women are good for making other Black women take the steps when they could have sent the elevator back down to get them. Why? Because they are convinced their seat at the table may be threatened by those waiting to come up.
Oh, it's the truth.
That's the truth.
Well said, Bishop Sonia.
Yes, the truth. Absolutely. Dr. Quincy is saying to you, now that this book is out in the world, how has this text been transformative for you as a scholar?
Yeah, that's a great question. Part of it was me understanding my training and my background also makes me very clear that my work is translation. It is about being able to communicate with a town and gown, as Katie Cannon would say, with the academy and the church, to have my foot squarely in both communities, even though they are both jealous lovers, as Renita Weems would say. But to have my foot in both communities and say, we got to do some more talking to each other, because I think if the scholars are not helping us to understand the history and to lay the groundwork, and then the practitioners are not helping us to understand what's happening day to day, in and out, and we're not communicating in a way that begins to share resources and share stories across, then something will be lost in translation. And that's really, I don't know if you want to go here, Bishop Vanessa, but that's really why that chapter 5 goes to the Bible. Because
yes, that's my next thing. Let me just tell them what it is real quick. Hitting a straight lick with a crooked stick. Come on. Hitting a straight lick with a crooked stick. A woman is reading of Luke 13, 10 through 17. Go ahead on with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think looking at the text and making the text a part of this conversation, not as a backdrop, but also doing some conversation, some exegesis with that text is a perfect starting point for folks, Black women who know their Bible, who know the text, and find the text as an initial starting point before having a conversation. I remember teaching Christian Education Institute, and I wanted to talk about film, Bible, women, and those women would not hear a word I say until we began with the text, right? And then they were open to, when I was able to connect it to a biblical passage, they were open to looking at The Color Purple and talking about Celie and Sophia. They were open to looking at Their Eyes Were Watching God. But if I just started with Zora Neale Hurston, as much as I love her, right? Those Black church women weren't able to engage me in a way that could speak their language. And so I turned to the text for that reason, because it parallels with my grandmother's experience, but also because it's an initial starting point for me to engage with Black women who are in the church and to have questions and conversations. It's also a starting point for congregations who might want to use this text for Bible study, or even for small groups who might see, how do we begin talking about this text? Go to Luke 13. Let's open it up. Let's talk about what's happening there. And that's a starting point. And I think as a scholar, right, it also helps, and this is particularly to Quincy's question, helps us to think, what kind of sources are we using, right? Because our training is not just the language of the academy, but it also is a call for us to examine who are the people that we draw from. What sources will we bring to this conversation, right? Whose voices will we privilege? For me, it's my grandmother. It's right in my own backyard. It's right in my own context, right? And to make her story just as valuable as any other philosopher's use of an example of a story that may or may not exist. This is a real woman, a real everyday Black woman, couldn't get no Blacker.
Right.
And this is her story.
Yes.
Bishop Flunder? No, but this is the way we're changing the academy. Let me just say that for the last 15 or so years of my life, I have watched this happen, and it has been absolutely incredible. What people are now reading is what people are now writing. And I think that it is the New Testament. It's what needs to happen for my daughters and what needs to happen for my grandchildren. We need to canonize some of this stuff because it's just that powerful for making change. And I'll say again, I don't think the academies are as happy as they may appear to be because mainline Christianity is not looking for academicians like this, teachers like this, but the world.
Right.
Glory to God. The world needs this kind of voice.
They do.
Speak truth to power in a time like this.
They do. They do. I'm so glad you said it. I want to end with turning the world right side up. Before I do that, I want to invite people to know that this is Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles. We are reading her book, powerful book. You've heard it already. Up Against a Crooked Gospel, Black Women's Bodies and the Politics of Redemption. You see it right there on your screen. Listen, you could purchase the book. There are all kinds of ways that you can purchase the book. Look down in your comment section. You'll see that is pinned, so you'll know where to order the book at. You can go directly to her link tree. You can go directly to Orbis Books to order the book as well, whatever your option, whatever your choice is. She has also agreed to give away a book tonight. Please put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers if you want to win a copy of the book tonight. As we wind down, I want to talk about turning the world right side up, but I also want to let you know that Bishop Yvette A is shouting you out, amen, and said he's very, very proud of you. So I want to
That's
make
my
sure.
covenant uncle.
Yes.
Lots of
God
love,
bless
lots of
you. He's a
love.
wonderful man of God.
Yes, yes. I end the story right where I began, with my grandmother's story. My grandmother prayed for me, had me on her mind. She took time on bended knee, even when her knees was bad and she was bent over, to pray for me. And I think this work is a product of her prayers. And I am privileged, how kind of God, to let me tell her story. And I think us drawing from our own stories, from our own legacies, bringing them forward, making sense, making meaning out of loss, right? And shifting what Katie Cannon says, moving death to life, is ultimately what this book does. And I hope it is an offering to all of you in the way that her story has been so revelatory for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Melanie. I want to give you and Bishop Flunder the opportunity to have some last words, if you will. I will start with Bishop Flunder to see if she has something to say, and I will end with you, Dr. Melanie.
My last words are glory to God. Hallelujah. All right. God bless you. Because I definitely want to hear yours.
Go ahead, Dr. Melanie.
Yeah, I just want to say thank y'all for y'all draw things out of me that that have just been burning deep within, and so it has been an absolute pleasure to be on this platform. And folks, please buy the book. And even if you don't buy the book on Amazon, please leave an Amazon review. Reviews are golden in the world of books, so continue to tell the story and share the message that way. Bishop Flunder, when you were talking about your mom, I was thinking in my own work and looking and thinking about a poem by Rev Sis Rador Stewart, when she says, "When Mama was God." And there was a line at the end of that when someone says to her, "Girl, you look just like your mama." One day when I was feeling a whole lot like God. Thank y'all.
So powerful. Thank you all so very, very much. Those of you that are joining, one of the names that I did not get to call tonight was that of Nikki Giovanni. Also someone that we want to lift up and just a venerated ancestor. We know the kind of work. And when Bishop Flunder talked about reading and writing, I can see people bringing her work into our present day as it relates to theological work. And so I am grateful for her voice, for her work. And so we certainly speak her name in this atmosphere, Nikki Giovanni. All of you all are coming in, making sure that you're putting Beyond the Gatekeepers down as your hashtag. Really quickly, we're going to read off 2 advertisements. Bishop Flunder is going to read them for you on tonight.
God bless you all. I never feel badly when we come to this moment and I have an opportunity to ask you to make a financial commitment to the Gatekeepers. It helps us to stay online. It helps us to expand our reach, which of course helps us to bring these incredible writers, authors, and thinkers into an opportunity for all of us to be blessed and expanded in our minds and hearts. This is the time when we need to be preparing for God's what's next. And I want to encourage you, support the broadcast. I thank God that you come on the broadcast, but I am praying that you will diligently also stop for a minute and send a donation. Send it by PayPal to www.paypal.me/TFAMJustice. If that is problematic for you, you can always send it to City of Refuge, United Church of Christ in Oakland, California. And I can assure you, Wherever you send it, if you indicate that it is for Gatekeepers, it will go to Gatekeepers. God bless you, and we are looking forward to your support. I also want to say, as we have now for a number of weeks, we are getting closer and closer to the Holy Convocation 25 years, TFAM, and all of those of you who have visited us, those of you who have been a part of us, to all of our clergy, all of our scholars, our young people, and our third and fourth generations of young people. We want to encourage you. Meet us in Atlanta, Georgia. How important is this convocation? It is incredibly important, given the realities of our country, and not just our country, our world. God has called us for such a time as this, and all of your learning, all of your preparation has been put in place for this time in history. I encourage you, meet us in Atlanta. Make sure that you get the dates, and then stay tuned for the hotel and registration information. We're looking forward to sharing this powerful time with each of you. God bless.
Thank you all so much. Listen, make sure you put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. We want to give you the opportunity to win. I want to shout out Cheryl Robinson Moore, who came in with us. Of course, Bishop Sonia Williams is here. Brooke Wilson is on. Susu also, lay pastor Susu was on with us tonight. People that I didn't get a chance to see: Minister David, Desiree Frierson, Tanga Priedeman. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight. We appreciate you. Shy Girl, this is your first time here. We say hello and thank you for joining us. Minister Sandy Hudson, Annette Jones, all of you, God bless you. Wanda Fox, we see you here. Hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. Hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, so you can win a copy of the book tonight. I want to make sure everybody has gotten a chance to put it in. And we're going to ask Pastor Sue to spin the wheel. So, is this somebody you know, Dr. Melanie? Okay, Tanga Pretiman. Tanga Prettyman, thank you so much. We appreciate you. I want you to do me a favor. Go to the Beyond the Gatekeepers page. Go into our direct message. Put your full name and address. We want to make sure that you get that book. Thank you so much, all of you who have joined us on tonight. We say God bless you and do have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Bishop Flunder. Thank you, Dr. Melanie Jones Quarles. Everybody have a wonderful evening. By the grace of God, we'll see you next week.